This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News, joined by former British super lightweight champion Dalton Smith here in Saudi Arabia. Dalton, how you doing?
All good. Nice to be back in Saudi. It's my second time, so yeah, another big fight week. Obviously, you're supporting my teammate Liam Cameron, so yeah, good week.
Liam Cameron, my man, you're out here for a very tough task. He goes in as a big underdog with Mr. Ben Whittaker. Ben, obviously that supreme amateur background,
Yeah.
highly thought of, highly touted as a fighter. What gives you guys the confidence that Liam can upset the odds?
Of course, obviously everything you said about Ben, and obviously I'm good friends with Ben.
Yeah.
Obviously from coming through all the GB days, me and Ben was from young before we got into GB, so obviously we're good friends. But for Liam, I think, in my opinion, this is Ben's first big step up. Obviously Liam had his time out and stuff, but Liam's a seasoned professional. Obviously he's seen what he did with Lyndon Arthur. And he done that after only being back in the gym 18 months. So with the momentum he's got, I think this will be his fifth fight this year. He's got nothing to lose and everything to gain, and he's definitely got a big chance.
How valuable do you think those rounds especially were with Lyndon Arthur going into this fight? Lyndon, a solid British level fighter, if not maybe slightly above that,
Yeah.
and he's competed above that, of course. But those rounds going into this fight, how crucial do you think they are?
It was very crucial for Liam. Obviously having the time he had out. Obviously he got plenty in the gym sparring, but you look at his fights, he got a few stoppages in there. So if you look at the rounds he didn't have that many. So obviously getting the full 10 with Lyndon, and obviously it was a very close fight. It's put him in good stead, and obviously got him into the position he's now, and the opportunity fighting out here in Saudi.
Absolutely. I'm yet to catch up with Liam myself, but I know he's always spoken about if he could somehow in his career win that British title still, despite obviously his trials and tribulations, those difficult times that he's been through, that's his ultimate goal. How do you guys see that path kind of mapping out? I know you're not his manager and what have you, but you've been around him, you've been there for him through those tough times. Do you see somebody there who is capable of still picking up that British title at some point?
Yeah, in my opinion, I think so. And I think when Liam came back, his main goal was he'd have been happy if he was able to fight again, just have one fight. And you think a year down the line, he's out here on a major card like this, so you can never say never. And he's a talented fighter. He's very well seasoned. So for him to win a British title, I think it could happen.
I have to ask you as well, Dalton, about the main event on Saturday.
Yeah.
A lot of splitting hairs for this fight. A lot of people struggling to choose who they believe will come out on top. Who do you think will be crowned the undisputed light heavyweight champion?
I'm going to go Beterbiev. I've said it a few times. I've changed my opinion. God knows how many times, but I just think in the recent performances, the opposition they both fought, I'm going to go with Beterbiev, but it is 50-50, really is.
Swinging everything back around and coming back on to yourself, Dalton. Obviously, at the start of this interview, I said former British super lightweight champion. This past weekend, that title was fought for and won by Jack Rafferty. Did you watch the fight?
I've not watched the fight because I was travelling out here and stuff, going to the airport, but I heard it was a good fight. And like I said, they are two good kids. It was always going to be a good fight. From what I hear, I think Turner was winning most rounds, and then obviously just got caught in the ninth and got broken down basically. But yeah, when I go back home, I'll have a quick look at that.
Does it feel weird now not having that British title? Obviously, you've been the reigning British champion for a while, so it must feel a little weird, I imagine.
I'd say no. I'd say no. Obviously, I've got the British and I've moved on. It's like that's kind of in the past now. Obviously, you've always got to keep your eyes on who's coming up behind. It was just nice for me to capture that British, have it for keeps, and like you say, you just pass it on, and the next ones will come through.
Instead of looking at what's behind you, we can look forwards. Jon Fernandez, you were due to meet in September. Your fight got delayed, and then Johnny Fisher was going to fight, and he could pull that for injury. And then we ended up back in Sheffield with Terry Harper, Rhiannon Dixon. But on the note of yourself, what's the latest with that Jon Fernandez fight?
Yeah, the fight's still going to go ahead. Obviously, I had the injury and stuff, so just getting that fixed, and hopefully we can get it rescheduled for December. So yeah, that's still next in the pipeline. We're just waiting on things to get confirmed.
Stylistically, how do you see this fight unfolding with Fernandez?
I think it's a tough fight. Jon Fernandez is not one of the bigger names. We was asking for like the Prograis fight. We couldn't make that one happen. But then obviously Adam vacated the European. Jon Fernandez were next in line, and Jon's a solid fighter. Can punch. He's been in some boxed a few good names, so he's a fighter I definitely wouldn't be overlooking.
I, amongst many, was a huge advocate for the Regis Prograis fight because there's question marks over how much more he has left to offer. So I know he's got the Jack Catterall fight now, but what was the issue with maybe trying to secure that fight? Did Regis just think he was deserving of maybe a bit more of an established name as opposed to yourself on the world scene?
Maybe. Obviously, he's probably looking at me thinking a young kid coming through, he's got nothing to gain. It probably did make more sense for him to box Catterall. Maybe obviously the Catterall, he probably got a bit more money. God knows what, but we couldn't make that fight happen, even though we did try. But I still think the Catterall Prograis will be a good fight.
We'll come on to all of that shortly, but sticking with the theme of yourself, when you go and beat somebody like Jose Zepeda in the fashion that you did, in the manner you did, obviously it caught a lot of eyeballs, a lot of attention, a lot of attraction to it. Is it difficult now to get up for the likes of a Jon Fernandez, who maybe isn't more of a well-known name across the sport?
No, not at all, because I know Jon Fernandez is a dangerous opponent, and at the stage I'm in now, every fight is crucial. I'm on the verge of potentially fighting for a world title, and also capturing the European title. I've got 2 belts I want to win in boxing. That's a European and a world. So of course, at the level I'm at and the oppositions I'm against, I can't overlook anybody. So yeah, I'm fully focused on a Jon Fernandez fight, and whatever comes after that, that's where my attention will be on that.
No, you don't want to look too far into the future, Dalton, but with those world title aspirations, let's say Jon Fernandez did happen in December and it all went swimmingly for yourself, you get that European title. How does 2025 line up for you? Do you look at the winner or the loser of Catterall Prograis? Do you think that would maybe be a sensible fight to try and look at?
Yeah, most definite. And it obviously, for me and Catterall, 2 British fighters, everybody likes it, 2 Brits fighting each other, so yeah, I mean, obviously I'll be keeping an eye on that fight. But I mean, overall, you just look at the 140-pound division. The position I'm in now, win the European title. Looking on from that, I'd want to be fighting for a world title next year, or whatever that'd be.
Just come on to some of those names shortly then, but with the theme of Catterall Prograis, how do you actually see it unfolding?
I think Catterall on a wide points decision.
Do you think Regis Prograis has much left?
From his performances, you can look and say he's maybe sliding a little bit, but he's still a dangerous fighter. He's been one of the best in the world, so maybe he could turn up and show something he's not in his last few performances.
We've also got Liam Paro, Richardson, Hitchins recently announced as well. How do you expect to see that one play
out? It's a tough fight. Hitchins is pretty awkward. Can spoil a fight a little bit. I rate Paro as a fighter. That is a fight I'd really like. I think we did put feelers out for that. But of course, he's a world champion. Us guys are wanting to be chasing that. But when he boxed Matthias, I actually weren't surprised that he beat him. A few people were coming up to me and like, oh, Matthias is going to smash him. And I says, don't be surprised if Paro wins. Stylistically wise, I seen him beating Matthias. I seen his weaknesses. So yeah, obviously those are all big fights and ones I'll be keeping an eye on.
With Liam Paro then, you said you put a few feelers out for it. Whereabouts did he get to? How far into any form of talks, whether it may be been just with his advisors or his managers on Liam's behalf? How far did it all get? I
never know how far it ever went. Obviously, I just leave that to my team, but I know I was the one who always said, look, try and get me a Paro fight. I did ask for that. Obviously, I don't know how much got talked, if the teams ever talked or anything like that, but of course, especially next year, those are the guys I'll be chasing.
For a while, the 140 division's had a lot of talented fighters, but no one's really put their stamp on it and dominated it. Is it a surprise to you that there isn't one man currently just at the forefront of everybody's mind, the definitive number one in the division?
I think that just goes down to show how many top guys there are in the division. The belts are starting to get passed around a little bit now. As before, it was like Tiafimo. There was just a few standout names, but you're seeing the other guys coming through. The belts are kind of getting passed around a little bit. You know, the Pitbull crew's getting beat by
Valenzuela.
Yeah. The Mikey Garcia's gym.
Yeah, Rayo Valenzuela.
Yeah. Like you say, these other names are coming through now, beating the people who people thought was probably going to stay as a champion for a long time, like your Pitbull Cruisers. So yeah, the 140-pound division, it's an exciting division at the moment.
So there's one man who I'm sure you're slightly fed up of talking about now, Mr. Adam Azim. And the only reason why I'm going to bring this up now is your father did his annual interview with Rob previously. I can't remember what show it was. And I think it was when Sonny fought Adrian Curiel.
Yeah.
And your father said in his interview with Rob, he had no interest in the Adam Azim fight. The only reason that he was interested in it was the belt. Without the belt, he didn't care about it, he doesn't care about it, and it doesn't really care if a fight does a line down the line. With yourself, you've been a bit more open and you've said it's a fight you'd like to really have. I know you've pursued it as well.
Yeah.
What's the stance as a team? Is your father a bit more standoffish on it, or...?
I think as you look at it, we're not sat there thinking that's a fight we need, we don't need, and it's not. We're not sat here thinking we need Adam Azim, because we don't. We definitely don't. I was in a position where I was next for the European title, and whether Adam Azim was going to fight me, or I was going to vacate, was a different story. You know, hence why I'm fighting for the European title next. If it was Adam Azim, it was Adam Azim. Whoever else, it's a Jon Fernandez now. But it's a high demand fight. A lot of people calling for it. Obviously, I always say it takes two to tango. I was in that fight. They obviously didn't want it at this time. But I think it is a fight. What's going to happen? The longer people talk about it and build it up, it's going to be even bigger and bigger. But of course, it's a fight I'd be excited about. People have talked about it for a long time. Well, I wouldn't really say a long time, but there's been a lot of noise around the fight.
You'd still say it's probably been a couple of years now that people have spoken about yourself.
Yeah,
and Adam.
that's it. Well, obviously, we was the two new boys coming through, doing well. Then we kind of got to the stage where he got a European title. We were both in pretty big fights, and it kind of made sense. It made more sense for us as where we was at in our careers. But of course, we keep winning. People are going to keep talking, and it's definitely going to happen.
That quote, though, you keep winning. There's always that risk that one of you maybe has a fight where that doesn't end up being the case. And I'll give you the instance of obviously Mark Chamberlain and Sam Noakes at lightweight have been spoken about fighting for ages, and obviously Mark Chamberlain lost to Josh Padley recently. Not saying that Mark and Sam won't fight in the future, but he gets pushed back a little bit. Is that a concern at all, that maybe if it gets delayed, you two don't cross paths in an ideal time frame?
Of course, it's always a possibility, but that's boxing. We can't predict things. You know, we're going in there to have a fight. As you see many times, one punch can change the whole aspect of a fight. So, but look, I just concentrate on my career. Adam will concentrate on his. Like I say, if his past still keep riding along, the fight's going to happen.
On the flip side, speaking of a fight which has always been mentioned, and it's up at light heavyweight, but Benavidez and Morrell was announced yesterday. Well, not announced, but David Benavidez saying that he's been pushing for that fight. It's an unbelievable fight, two men without a world title. Does that give you somewhat of like a kick, as these guys are doing it, so we could do it as well?
Of course, I was willing to do it. I wasn't the one who didn't make the fight happen. But you see the likes of George Groves, James DeGale. They did it early on in their careers, and the loser actually went on to become a world champion first. So, yeah, sometimes it don't have to be for a world title. If the fight's in high demand and it makes sense, then, like I say, it makes sense.
It's a fight which isn't happening, but what did you make around the whole Adam and Harlem Eubank face-off in the ring, which has not transpired to be a fight?
I knew what it was. I knew what it was. And I think that the people who seen the fight getting announced knew what it was. I think the purse bids were like the next day or a few days later. We knew why that announcement got made, but is the fight happening now?
It's not. Instead, he fights O'Hara Davies next weekend, and
which I still think is a good fight. I do think that's a good fight, but it's not the Harlem Eubank fight we thought we was going to get.
Do you think O'Hara's a tougher fight than Harlem?
Nah. Don't get me wrong, I like O'Hara. He's people are going like, oh, but he got stopped in one round and stuff, but I don't really take much from that performance. Maybe he just got caught cold in the first round, couldn't actually get going. So I don't really take much from that. As a fight, you can just get caught cold, and that's just boxing. But O'Hara's obviously is a good fighter. I just think Adam will be too sharp, too fast, too young for him. The only interesting thing is O'Hara can obviously bang. So if he is able to land a clean shot on Adam, it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to it. But I could see, Adam maybe getting the winning side 5 rounds.
Just moving away from that, I also want to get your thoughts on Sonny versus Galal. This amateur rivalry is coming to fruition in the pro ranks. How excited, on a personal note, despite any relationships that you have with Sonny, are you to see this unfold come November 30th?
I think it's a great fight. It's I think the styles will gel well. I've seen many rounds of them two sparring. Obviously, they've got a bit of needle between the teeth through the amateurs. I just think it's a great British fight. Taking, relationships out of it. As a boxing fan, you're going to sit and look at that, and especially for the weight division, it's, the two guys very, very talented, and it's going to be a great fight.
Were the spars as aggressive and as entertaining as what Sonny and Galal say they were?
I just said the spars were very, very entertaining. I'll say that.
Listen, Dalton, obviously I appreciate your time. I'm sure you're going to be wanting to chill a little bit, enjoy the rest of your time here in Riyadh.
Yeah.
Look forward to hopefully having an announcement soon.
Yeah.
And thank you for speaking to me in Boxing News.
Appreciate it. Thank you.